Elias Grant stepped off the transport ship onto Orvella's golden plains, feeling the warm light of the twin suns on his skin. He had seen many worlds in his life, many strange landscapes, but nothing quite like this. The forest shimmered with leaves that looked like liquid gold, and the air carried a faint hum, as if the planet itself were alive. Tall crystalline towers rose in the distance, reflecting the sunlight in countless rainbows. He adjusted the strap of his pack and looked around. Elias was not here as a soldier this time. His uniform had been replaced by a simple exploration suit designed for ease and movement. Still, he carried himself with the discipline of a man trained for danger. His mission was clear: observe the planet, assist if needed, and report any threats. Simple, peaceful work, or so he thought. As he moved toward the edge of a crystal-clear river, he noticed movement in the nearby forest. Small shapes darted between the trees, their movements quick and precise. Elias frowned. Nothing about the forest seemed hostile, yet instinct told him something was wrong. He adjusted his field scanner, which beeped softly, showing irregular readings. There was life here, but it was not ordinary. Then came the scream. A high-pitched cry that tore through the calm air and sent shivers down his spine. Elias froze for a moment, listening. The scream repeated, desperate and fearful. Without thinking, he sprinted toward the sound, his boots pounding on the soft, golden grass. Through the trees, he saw her, a small Averan girl, tangled beneath a fallen tree trunk. Her silvery skin glimmered in the sunlight, and her wide eyes were filled with terror. She was no older than 7, and she struggled weakly, trying to lift the heavy trunk herself. Every second mattered. "Hold on," Elias shouted, rushing forward. He dropped his pack and knelt beside her, placing his hands on the tree. With a concentrated effort, he lifted it just enough for her to crawl free. She fell into his arms, gasping for air. Elias held her gently, careful not to hurt her fragile body. The girl's eyes darted around until they locked on him, filled with a mixture of confusion and relief. She did not speak, she could not. And then from deeper in the forest, another figure appeared, tall, elegant, with silver skin and eyes that seemed to glow faintly in the sunlight. Her presence commanded attention. She moved swiftly, almost gliding, and when she reached them, Elias realized who she was. The woman was beautiful, but there was a sharpness to her that spoke of authority. The girl ran into her arms, crying, and the woman's face softened as she looked at Elias. "You have saved her," she said in a voice that was calm but carried weight. "Do you understand what you have done? On Orvella, it is never just all. You have performed a deed that carries meaning beyond your understanding. To save the life of a child of the royal line is to bind yourself to this court. Your presence is no longer your own. You will remain with us, protected and honored, until the queen herself releases you." The words were formal, almost ritualistic, and yet the weight of them pressed down on him. He had traveled to many planets, dealt with countless cultures, and faced unimaginable dangers. But this was something new. He was not prepared for a claim that could not be refused. I am not here to join any court," he said cautiously. "I have my duties elsewhere. For now, you will come with us." The path to the palace was unlike anything he had ever seen. Trees arched overhead, their golden leaves forming natural corridors that glimmered in the sunlight. Birds, or creatures that resembled birds, sang in melodic harmonies. Streams of clear water ran alongside the paths, reflecting the brilliance of the crystal towers in the distance. Every step seemed to pulse with life, as if the planet itself acknowledged his passage. When they reached the palace, Elias stopped briefly to take in the sight. It was enormous, yet elegant, with towers that spiraled like seashells and walls made of crystal that seemed to hum faintly under his touch. Guards stood at attention, their armor gleaming and their expressions unreadable. Despite his military experience, Elias felt a flicker of awe. This was a world of beauty, and yet he had been pulled into its heart through a single act of courage. Inside, the palace was cool and filled with light that shimmered off every surface. The queen awaited him, seated on a throne that seemed carved from the purest crystal. She regarded him with quiet intensity, as if weighing every thought and intention in his mind. The child clung to her side, peering at him with wide eyes that reflected trust and gratitude. "You have done well," the queen said finally. "Your actions have saved my daughter's life. That is not a small thing, human. On Orvella, such deeds are honored above all else. You will stay with us, not as a prisoner, but as one of us. You will be protected, guided, and respected, and you will serve not out of fear, but because your heart showed courage when it mattered most." It carried weight in a society that valued honor and loyalty in ways he had only glimpsed in stories of ancient civilizations. "I will do what I can to help," he said quietly. "But I am not a courtier or a diplomat. I am human. My training is in protection and combat. Your skills will serve this world, and in return this world will honor you. You are bound by law, yes, but also by trust. Trust is the foundation of our society, and now you are part of it." Advisors moved with purpose, nobles conversed with elegance, and servants worked with quiet efficiency. Everywhere he noticed a sense of balance, a society built on respect, duty, and care for one another. The child, Lyra, remained by his side for much of it. She was timid at first, clinging to her mother, but slowly her fear faded. She observed Elias with fascination, her small hands reaching for his when he knelt to speak to her. For the first time since the accident, she smiled. It was a fragile smile, but it was real, and it filled Elias with a warmth he had not expected to feel in a foreign world. By evening, he was escorted to his quarters, a simple, elegant room with soft lighting and a view of the golden forest beyond. He sat by the window, thinking. He had traveled across stars, faced alien threats, and survived conflicts that would have broken others. Yet nothing in his life had prepared him for the weight of saving a child and being claimed by a society that viewed such an act as binding beyond choice. He considered his options. Resistance would be pointless. The Queen's laws were absolute. But submission was not weakness. It was an opportunity. An opportunity to protect, to learn, and perhaps to understand a civilization that valued life, honor, and courage above all. As he lay down that night, the hum of the palace surrounding him, Elias felt a strange sense of peace. He was a stranger in this world, yes, but he had earned a place here. His actions had consequences far beyond the immediate, and he realized that the life he had saved, Lyra's, was now entwined with his own. He did not yet know what the future held. He did not know the challenges he would face, the enemies he might encounter, or the lessons he would have to learn. But one thing was certain. He had been chosen not by chance but by courage, and that courage had already begun to change the course of his life, and perhaps the life of Orvella itself. Elias closed his eyes, listening to the faint hum of the palace. Somewhere in the corridors, Lyra slept peacefully, her small form safe because of him. And for the first time in a long time, he allowed himself to feel something he had long forgotten: hope. Outside, the twin suns dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the crystal towers. The planet shimmered in response, as if acknowledging the bond forged by a single, decisive act of bravery. Elias knew that tomorrow, the real work would begin. He had saved a life, but now he had a role in a world far larger and more complex than he had ever imagined. For the first time, he understood that heroism was not about war or fame. It was about choices, about actions in moments that mattered, and about the courage to step forward when others could not. And in that quiet realization, he felt the stirrings of a connection that would shape the destiny of two worlds, his own and Orvella's. The morning sun rose slowly over Orvella, painting the crystal towers with soft gold and pink hues. Elias woke to the gentle hum of the palace, a sound that had begun to feel familiar, even comforting. The events of the previous day were still fresh in his mind. He had saved a child, earned the trust of the Queen, and unknowingly bound himself to a world unlike any he had ever seen. Breakfast in the royal dining hall was unlike any meal he had ever experienced. The table was long and wide, crafted from a single piece of shimmering crystal. Plates floated gently above it, carrying foods Elias had never seen before, colors and textures that seemed almost impossible, yet each bite was perfectly edible. Sweet fruits glimmered like gems, and drinks sparkled as they moved in their containers. Lyra, the child he had saved, sat at the far end of the table with her mother, the Queen, beside her. When she saw Elias enter, her eyes lit up. She waved shyly, and he gave her a small nod in return. She had begun to trust him, and her presence brought him a strange sense of responsibility and warmth. The Queen spoke first, her voice calm but commanding. "Elias, you are no longer just a visitor. You are now part of this palace. You will observe, you will learn, and you will assist. But most importantly, you will remain loyal. Your loyalty is not demanded by force, but by the bond created when you saved Lyra's life. Do you understand?" The walls shimmered slightly, and the floor responded to movement, cushioning each step. The Queen's guards moved with elegance, their bodies flowing like water as they trained. They were strong, yes, but there was something more, an energy that Elias could feel, a subtle aura that surrounded each of them. He watched carefully. His military instincts told him to analyze, to observe patterns, to find weaknesses. But there were no weaknesses here, only potential. The guards were skilled, disciplined, and synchronized. They wielded weapons unfamiliar to him, rods that glowed faintly, blades that seemed to shift and bend light, and shields that projected protective barriers without visible force. Ilias was invited to demonstrate his own skills. At first, he felt awkward. Humans moved differently than the Avaran. His steps were heavier, his strikes less fluid. But the moment he acted, instinct took over. He moved swiftly, his body reacting with precision honed over years of training and battlefield experience. He parried, dodged, and struck in ways the Avaran had not seen before. The guards watched in silence at first, then admiration grew in their eyes. Even the queen's advisor nodded in approval. Ilias realized that his strength lay not in alien technique, but in his human adaptability and ingenuity. Where the Avaran followed patterns and energy flows, he improvised, using instinct and strategy. After training, he was given a tour of the palace's inner chambers. Every room was a marvel. Libraries glowed with floating texts, each containing centuries of knowledge. Laboratories shimmered with strange devices that seemed to manipulate light and energy. Gardens floated in midair with flowers that moved as if breathing. It was overwhelming, yet fascinating. Ilias had always been curious, always eager to learn. Here, his curiosity was not only allowed, it was encouraged. In the afternoon, he was called to observe the city from one of the palace balconies. Orvella stretched as far as the eye could see, golden forests merging with crystal towers and flowing rivers. He noticed small groups of Avaran moving through the streets, some carrying delicate instruments, others walking with children or tending to gardens. The city was alive with activity, yet there was harmony. Unlike the chaotic cities of human worlds, Orvella's society seemed balanced and purposeful. As he stood there, Lyra appeared beside him. She pointed at a group of children playing near a fountain. "Protector," she whispered. "They are like me, yes." Saving her had not only preserved her life, it had started a chain of responsibility, respect, and connection. Later, the queen summoned him to a council chamber. The room was round, with crystal panels displaying maps, reports, and information from across Orvella. Several nobles and advisors were present, their expressions serious. Ilias listened quietly as the queen spoke. "There are challenges ahead," she said. "Some may question your presence here. Some may feel that a human, a stranger, should not have influence in our court. You must understand that loyalty is not only shown through action, but through the respect you earn. Observe, learn, and act wisely." It required patience, perception, and understanding, skills he had to sharpen quickly if he wished to thrive here. The council discussed trade, security, and interplanetary relations. At first, Ilias felt out of place, unsure of how to contribute. But soon he began noticing subtle details others overlooked. A gap in the patrol routes, a misalignment in energy flows, a minor oversight that could cause a problem if ignored. He made notes quietly, careful not to interfere, but ready to speak if needed. In the evening, he returned to the training halls, where Lyra joined him again. She mimicked his movements as he demonstrated defensive stances and simple exercises. At first, her movements were awkward, but she improved quickly. Her confidence grew, and with it, the bond between them strengthened. She was learning not just to defend herself, but to trust others. And in teaching her, Ilias began to understand the subtle ways the Avaran valued courage, intellect, and loyalty. As night fell, the palace shimmered under the twin moons. The hum of the building felt like a lullaby, soothing yet alive. Ilias walked through the quiet corridors, reflecting on the day. He had come to Orvella as an observer, but now he was part of something much larger. He had responsibilities, yes, but also opportunities to learn, to protect, and to influence. A soft voice called his name. It was the queen standing near a balcony overlooking the city. "Ilias," she said, her tone gentle, "you have done more than I expected. You have earned respect not only through strength, but through patience and care. Remember, loyalty is not demanded, it is nurtured. And your actions today show that you understand this. I only wish to do right by Lyra and by your people." He realized that Orvella was not just a planet to observe. It was a society to understand, a culture to respect, and a people to protect. And he, a human far from home, had been given a chance to leave a mark through courage, wisdom, and compassion. Before sleep claimed him, he glanced at Lyra's small silhouette in the courtyard below, her figure bathed in moonlight. She had survived because of him. She trusted him completely. And in that trust, Ilias found a purpose he had never felt before. He had saved a life, but in doing so, he had become part of a story far greater than his own. Outside, the city slept peacefully, unaware that a human soldier had begun forging a bond that could shape the future of their world. For Elias, the days ahead would be filled with challenges, learning, and new responsibilities. But he welcomed them. After all, courage was not only about facing enemies. It was about standing where others could not, protecting those who could not protect themselves, and earning trust that transcended species and worlds. As the twin moons rose higher, casting silver light across the golden forests and crystal towers, Elias felt a rare emotion, a combination of pride, hope, and anticipation. He had entered Orvella as a stranger, yet he would not leave as one. He was part of something larger, and in that realization he found strength. The night passed quietly, yet every shadow and shimmer of the palace seemed alive with promise. And in the soft glow, the human soldier prepared himself for the days to come, knowing that saving a child had changed not only one life but the fate of many. For Elias Grant, the journey had only just begun. Elias woke to the soft hum of the palace once again, the golden light of dawn filtering through the crystal windows. He had begun to grow accustomed to the rhythms of Orvella, yet each day brought new lessons and unexpected challenges. Today, he was to accompany the Queen on a tour of the city, a rare honor that allowed him to observe Orvellan society up close. Lyra, ever curious, had insisted on joining them. She had become bold in recent weeks, her trust in Elias transforming her from a timid child into one who laughed freely and explored her surroundings without fear. Elias smiled as she skipped ahead, her small hand occasionally brushing against his for reassurance. He felt a protective instinct stronger than anything he had known before. Saving her had created more than a bond. It had awakened a responsibility that was now inseparable from his life. The streets of Orvella were alive with movement. Citizens went about their daily routines, some tending gardens, others carrying materials to repair or improve the crystal towers, and children played freely under the watchful eyes of their elders. Elias noticed that despite the activity, there was a rhythm to everything. Nothing was chaotic. Every movement seemed deliberate, every action purposeful. The Queen moved with a grace that commanded attention. As she walked, people bowed slightly or offered respectful nods. When Elias saw her interact with citizens, he realized she was both leader and guardian. Her presence inspired respect, not fear. Yet he also noticed something subtle. Some of the nobles whispered to one another, casting wary glances toward him. It was not hostility, but curiosity tinged with skepticism. Elias felt it too. Humans were often judged quickly, their strength and unpredictability a source of both admiration and concern. The Queen seemed aware of these tensions and addressed them in subtle ways, demonstrating her trust in him through simple gestures, allowing him to guide Lyra, letting him speak first in certain discussions, and subtly positioning him where he could assist without interference. During the tour, they reached a marketplace, a place where Averin from all walks of life gathered. Artisans displayed shimmering fabrics, foods that glowed faintly, and delicate instruments that emitted music when touched. Elias observed quietly, noticing both beauty and efficiency. He was learning that Orvella thrived not only on skill and knowledge, but also on harmony. Each person had a role, each action a purpose, and yet there was freedom within the structure. Lyra ran ahead to watch a group of children performing acrobatic movements, their bodies twisting and floating effortlessly. Elias followed, careful not to rush her. He noticed a young Averin stumble during a jump, and without thinking he stepped forward, catching the child gently before he fell. The crowd watched silently, impressed not only by the human's speed but also by his care. The child's parents smiled gratefully, and Elias felt a familiar warmth. Saving lives was no longer an abstract concept. It was becoming part of who he was. Later, the Queen led them to a council chamber where Elias would meet with some of the city's leaders. The chamber was circular, with a holographic map of Orvella hovering in the center. Advisors and nobles took their seats, their faces calm but expectant. The Queen introduced Elias as the human who had saved her daughter, emphasizing the trust and loyalty he had shown. Some nobles nodded politely, while others remained silent, watching him with cautious eyes. Elias could sense their doubt. Humans were strangers here, and though he had proven courage and skill, skepticism lingered. He knew that respect would need to be earned, not demanded. The discussion turned to border security. Orvella had long maintained peace with neighboring regions, but reports of rogue groups attempting small incursions had reached the palace. Elias listened intently, analyzing the data. The Averin had abilities unfamiliar to him. Some could manipulate energy, others had enhanced speed and agility, but their tactics were sometimes rigid, following tradition over adaptation. When asked for his opinion, Elias spoke carefully. "Your defenses are strong, but predictability can be a weakness," he said. "If the rogues understand your patterns, they could exploit them. I recommend varied patrols, and combining your abilities with small, flexible units that can respond quickly. If his counsel proves valuable, it will stand on its own merit." At first, there was resistance. Habit and tradition were deeply rooted, but as practice sessions continued, results became evident. Patrols became more effective, response times improved, and the confidence of the city's protectors grew. Lyra watched from a distance, her admiration for Elias evident. "Protector," she whispered one evening as they practiced in a courtyard, "you make everyone stronger, even me." Saving Lyra had been the first step, but now he was shaping the future of those around him in ways he had never imagined. One afternoon, a message arrived from a distant part of the city. A small group of Averin had gone missing near the outskirts of the forest. The queen summoned Elias immediately. She trusted him to assess the situation and respond, knowing that his combination of human instincts and battlefield experience could make a difference. Elias moved swiftly, accompanied by a small unit of trained guards. The forest was dense, golden leaves rustling in the wind, and sunlight filtering through in shifting patterns. He scanned the area, noting broken branches and subtle signs of passage. Within minutes, they located the missing group, safe, though disoriented, trapped near a hidden ravine. Elias guided them out carefully, ensuring no one was hurt. The rescue earned him further respect among the Averin. Even the skeptical nobles could no longer deny his skill, judgment, and courage. He was proving that human abilities could complement the unique strengths of Orvella's people. Returning to the palace that evening, Elias found the queen waiting. Lyra ran ahead to meet him, throwing her arms around his legs in a gesture of pure affection. "You saved them too," she exclaimed. Elias smiled down at her. "Yes, but they would have helped each other too. We just made it a little easier." He had never sought recognition, yet here, his actions carried weight, not just because of his strength, but because of his character. He was part of something larger than himself, a society that valued deeds, integrity, and courage above all. As days passed, Elias continued his duties, balancing training, guidance, and observation. He grew closer to Lyra, teaching her not only physical skills, but also patience, focus, and problem-solving. She learned quickly, her small mind absorbing concepts with an eagerness that reminded him of why he had chosen this path. Protecting life meant more than combat. It meant nurturing growth, inspiring trust, and fostering confidence. One evening, while practicing in the palace gardens, Elias noticed a subtle tension among the guards. Whispers reached his ears, hushed but urgent. Some questioned his presence, others doubted the wisdom of following human strategies. Elias observed quietly, understanding that trust, once earned, must be maintained. One mistake could undermine weeks of effort. He approached the leader of the guard unit. "I've noticed concern," he said softly. "If there's doubt, we can address it openly. Fear often comes from misunderstanding. Let's talk." Elias understood that leadership was not about authority. It was about communication, example, and consistency. Night fell over Orvella, the twin moons casting silver light across the crystal towers and golden forests. Elias returned to his quarters, weary but fulfilled. His thoughts wandered to Lyra, asleep in her room, and the queen, who had placed her trust in him without hesitation. He realized that his life had changed forever. Saving a child had bound him to a world, to a people, and to a purpose far greater than survival or duty. In the quiet of his room, Elias reflected on the lessons he had learned. Courage was not just action, but wisdom. Loyalty was not just obedience, but trust. And strength was not merely power, but responsibility. Orvella was teaching him a new kind of heroism, one defined not by victories alone, but by the lives he touched and the bonds he nurtured. As the palace settled into silence, he allowed himself a moment of hope. He had entered Orvella as a stranger, unprepared for the weight of his actions, yet he was beginning to understand his place. Tomorrow, new challenges would arrive. Perhaps they would be tests of skill, judgment, or diplomacy, but Elias felt ready. He had learned that bravery was as much about patience and understanding as it was about strength, and that true influence came from actions, not words. The twin moons rose higher, bathing the palace in gentle light. Somewhere in the city, citizens slept peacefully, unaware that a human soldier was quietly shaping the future of their world. Elias had saved a child, but in doing so, he had begun to transform not just a life, but an entire society. And for the first time, he felt a profound certainty. He belonged here among the Averin as protector, guide, and friend. The journey ahead would be difficult, filled with challenges and tests of courage, but he welcomed it, because he understood now that true heroism was not about leaving a mark on history, it was about leaving a mark on hearts, minds, and lives. Elias closed his eyes, listening to the soft hum of the palace. He knew that Orvella was no longer just a mission or a world to observe. It was a home of purpose, trust, and honor, a place where one human could make a difference, not through conquest or strength alone, but through courage, care, and unwavering loyalty. And as sleep claimed him, Elias dreamed of the days to come, challenges to overcome, friendships to build, and a world to protect. For he had learned that heroism was universal, and that even a single act of kindness could bind a human to a destiny far greater than he had ever imagined. The morning on Orvella was calm, yet Elias felt a tension beneath the surface. The city appeared peaceful, golden leaves rustling in the light breeze, the crystal towers reflecting the first rays of the sun. Yet subtle signs of unease reached him, glances from nobles, hurried footsteps in the corridors, and a faint whisper that the queen's advisors had received troubling news. Elias knew that challenges were approaching. His time as a visitor was over. Now he was a participant in the life of this world. Every choice he made, every action he took, carried weight beyond what he had known before. And he would need to act carefully, balancing courage with wisdom, instinct with thought. The queen summoned him to her private council chamber. She stood at the center of the room, her silver hair catching the morning light. Lyra, as always, followed close behind. "Elias," the queen said, her voice steady yet urgent, "there are reports of strange activity near the eastern forests. Scouts have seen signs of unauthorized travel and small groups of outsiders entering our territory. We do not yet know their intentions, but I fear they may bring conflict." Small markers indicated sightings, unusual disturbances in the natural flow of the land, and areas where Averin patrols had found traces of unknown travelers. Elias studied the map carefully. Unlike humans, the Averin relied heavily on sensory detection and energy flow. The humans' unpredictability and stealth could give them an advantage, or a threat, if mismanaged. "These movements are not large armies," Elias observed. "They are small, agile groups, but they move in patterns that suggest scouting and mapping. They could be planning something more significant, or they might be exploring. Either way, we cannot ignore them. Your insight may be the key to preventing unnecessary conflict." The scouts waited near the edge of the forest. They were skilled and disciplined, yet there was hesitation in their movements. Elias noticed their caution. They trusted him, but only to a degree. Respect had been earned, but full confidence was something that would grow over time. As they moved into the forest, Elias led quietly, observing every sign of movement, every shift in the energy around them. The golden leaves rustled softly, but beneath the beauty lay subtle danger. He had learned to see patterns, and soon he noticed inconsistencies, footprints that did not match the Averin or the scouts, broken branches positioned unusually, and small traces of energy that had been displaced by something unfamiliar. "Stay alert," he whispered to the scouts. "These signs mean someone is here, but they are avoiding direct contact. Watch for traps or ambush points. Move in pairs and communicate silently." After several hours, they reached a clearing where they discovered evidence of the outsiders. A small camp, abandoned recently, with supplies and tools that Elias did not recognize. He examined the items carefully, noting their design and purpose. "These are explorers," he concluded, "but they are cautious, organized, and prepared. They may be peaceful, but their movements suggest strategic thinking. We must track them, but avoid confrontation unless necessary. We should continue to observe and prepare, but maintain readiness to protect our people if required. You are proving that trust is built not only through saving lives, but through wisdom and foresight." She grew more courageous each day, learning not just how to protect herself, but how to think critically and assess situations calmly. Yet not all was easy. Some nobles quietly questioned his growing influence, whispering concerns about a human shaping strategies and decisions. Elias noticed the tension but did not confront it directly. He knew that respect must be earned continuously, not demanded, and he focused on his work rather than arguments. One evening, as the twin moons rose over the city, a message arrived. Scouts had detected the outsiders again, this time deeper in the eastern forest, moving swiftly and cautiously. The queen called Elias immediately. "They are approaching a settlement," she said. "You must lead a team to ensure the safety of our citizens. Use your judgment. Avoid conflict if possible, but protect our people." He relied on his human instincts, guiding the Averan scouts through a combination of observation, silent signals, and careful navigation. They arrived at a village just as the outsiders appeared on the horizon. Elias signaled the villagers to take cover, and the Averan scouts positioned themselves strategically, using their abilities to monitor the movements of the outsiders without revealing themselves fully. Elias assessed the situation, noting the outsiders' size, formation, and approach. "They are not armed for battle," he whispered to the scouts. "They carry tools and supplies. Their intent seems to be observation or gathering resources. Watch closely, but do not engage unless provoked." As the hours passed, he realized that these were explorers, much like himself, a team cautious and skilled but unthreatening if handled correctly. Returning to the palace with the scouts, Elias reported his findings. "They are explorers, not invaders. We can observe them, ensure the village remains safe, and maintain readiness. No lives need be lost, and no conflict is necessary at this time." He was no longer simply a protector of one child. He had become a guide, a teacher, and a strategist. His human instincts, tempered by care and observation, were shaping the society around him. The nobles who had doubted him now watched silently, many beginning to respect the insights he offered. Life in the palace continued with this new rhythm. Elias trained with the guards, taught Lyra, and assisted the queen in observing the city and its surroundings. He learned more about Orvella each day, the culture, the energy flows, and the subtle ways the people communicated without words. He began to understand that heroism was not just about saving lives, but about preserving peace, guiding others, and preventing harm before it occurred. One evening, as he walked through the gardens with Lyra, she looked up at him thoughtfully. "Protector," she said, "do you think they will come back?" Courage is not always about fighting. It is about knowing when to act and how to act wisely. You are learning every day. As night settled over the city, Elias reflected on the days that had passed. He had entered Orvella as a stranger, unprepared for the responsibilities that came with saving a child. Yet he had adapted, learned, and grown. He was part of a society that valued deeds, thought, and compassion. He had earned respect not by force, but by action and integrity. The twin moons bathed the palace in silver light, and the golden forests glimmered softly in the distance. Elias knew that challenges would continue to arrive, outsiders, threats, and tests of wisdom, but he felt ready. He had learned that heroism was universal, that courage was not measured only by battle, and that loyalty and care could forge bonds stronger than any law or custom. And as he watched the city below, he realized that Orvella had become more than a mission or a duty. It had become a world to protect, a people to guide, and a place where one human could make a lasting difference, not through strength alone, but through courage, wisdom, and an unwavering commitment to doing what was right. For Elias Grant, the days ahead promised challenges, discoveries, and choices that would test him in every way. But he welcomed them. He had learned that true heroism was not about glory or recognition. It was about protecting life, nurturing trust, and standing firm when it mattered most. And with that understanding, he felt a sense of purpose stronger than anything he had known before. The palace settled into quiet once more, and the soft hum of Orvella surrounded him. He had saved a child, gained the trust of a queen, and begun shaping a society. And he knew that the real journey, the journey of courage, wisdom, and loyalty, was only just beginning. The dawn broke over Orvella with a calm that seemed almost too perfect. Elias stood on the balcony of the palace, gazing out at the golden forest stretching endlessly below. He had spent weeks preparing for the arrival of the outsiders the scouts had reported. He knew they were clever, careful, and unpredictable, yet he also knew that Orvella was strong, and that with wisdom and strategy, the city could face them without unnecessary harm. Lyra appeared beside him, holding his hand tightly. She had grown in confidence and curiosity, her small face determined and bright. "Protector," she said softly, "are they coming today?" Courage is not always about fighting. It is about acting with care when it matters most. Today you will lead the defense, not through violence, but through wisdom and coordination. The outskirts of the eastern forest were alive with movement. Scouts signaled from their positions, and Elias observed carefully. The outsiders were approaching in small groups, moving quietly, examining the land. Their intent seemed uncertain, but there was an unmistakable purpose in their actions. Elias decided to act in a way that would protect the villagers while avoiding unnecessary confrontation. "Position yourselves here," he instructed the Averan scouts, pointing to strategic locations along the forest edge. "We will observe first. Do not act unless provoked. Our goal is to ensure safety, not to start conflict. If they approach the village, guide them away calmly. We must be cautious, but we must also be ready to act decisively if needed." Hours passed as the outsiders moved closer. Elias observed their formation, noticing their hesitation as they realized the village was defended. He saw their curiosity, their caution, and their lack of hostile intent. They were explorers, yes, but skilled ones, capable of careful observation and planning. Elias formulated a plan. He decided to confront them, not with weapons, but with presence and clarity. Moving to the clearing between the forest and the village, he stepped forward, signaling the outsiders to halt. They paused, watching him warily. Elias raised his hand slowly, showing no threat, and spoke in the universal language of caution and respect he had learned to use. "We mean no harm," he said calmly. "This village is protected and its people are safe. If you come here, you must do so with care and understanding. We will guide you, but any attempt to harm or disturb will be stopped. You have been observed and your movements noted. We ask only that you respect our home and our people." They did not speak, but their body language showed comprehension. Elias continued, offering a path that would allow them to observe and gather data without entering the village itself. Slowly, the outsiders agreed, following the route he indicated, avoiding the homes and children. Returning to the palace, Elias reported the events to the queen. She listened carefully, then smiled, a rare and gentle expression. "You have done more than protect our people, human," she said. "You have prevented conflict without a single life lost. You have shown that courage and wisdom can achieve what force alone cannot. Orvella owes you more than gratitude. It owes you trust, respect, and loyalty." And now the queen had acknowledged his contribution not as a visitor, but as a true member of their world. Over the following days, the city returned to its peaceful rhythm, the presence of the outsiders becoming a distant memory. Elias continued his work, training, teaching Lyra, assisting the queen, and observing the world around him. Each day, he deepened his understanding of Orvella's people, its culture, and its values. He realized that heroism on this world was defined not by battle victories, but by the lives he touched and the respect he earned. Lyra often stayed by his side, learning not only combat and observation, but also patience, judgment, and empathy. "Protector," she said one afternoon, "I want to help people like you do. I want to make a difference." He has changed more than just our defenses. He has changed the way we see humans, the way we see courage, and the way we see ourselves. His presence is a gift, and his actions will leave a legacy far beyond today. The nobles who had once questioned his presence now respected him, seeing the wisdom in his judgments and the courage in his actions. One evening, the queen summoned Elias to the central hall. The room glowed with the light of 1,000 crystals, reflecting the twilight outside. "Elias," she said, her tone formal yet warm, "you have proven yourself in ways few could have imagined. You have saved lives, guided our people, and shown wisdom beyond your years. By the laws of Orvella and by the trust you have earned, I declare you not only my protector but a permanent member of my household. You belong here human, as one of us. I am honored, Your Majesty. I will serve to the best of my abilities and protect this world and its people as I have promised." It had woven him into the fabric of a society that valued courage, wisdom, and loyalty above all. In the following weeks, Elias continued to assist in city planning, training, and diplomacy. His unique perspective as a human allowed him to anticipate potential problems, suggest creative solutions, and inspire others to act with courage and integrity. The queen relied on him not only as a protector but as an advisor, valuing his insights and judgment. One day, while walking through the palace gardens with Lyra, he noticed children playing near a fountain. They moved with confidence and joy, their laughter echoing through the courtyard. Elias realized that his actions had not only protected one child, but had indirectly shaped the lives of many. The trust and courage he had instilled in Lyra now rippled outward, influencing the next generation. The queen joined them, her expression thoughtful. "Elias," she said, "you have changed more than you know. You have strengthened our defenses, guided our people, and reminded us that courage and kindness are the greatest strengths of all. You have become part of Orvella in ways that will last for generations. As twilight fell, Elias stood on the balcony once more, looking out over the city and the forests beyond. The twin moons rose, casting silver light across the crystal towers. Orvella shimmered softly, peaceful and alive, yet strong, ready to face whatever challenges might come. He knew that threats would continue to arise, as they always would. But he also knew that strength alone was not the answer. Courage, wisdom, loyalty, and care were just as powerful, and in this understanding, Elias felt a sense of purpose and belonging that he had never known. Lyra tugged at his hand. "Protector," she said, her eyes shining, "will you stay with us forever? I belong here now as part of this world, not because of duty alone, but because of trust, courage, and the lives we share. This is home." Through courage, wisdom, and care, Elias had earned a place not only in the palace but in the hearts of her people. As night settled fully over Orvella, Elias stood with Lyra at his side, looking out at the shimmering city. He understood now that heroism was not about leaving a mark on the world through fame or force. It was about saving lives, inspiring trust, nurturing courage, and standing firm when it mattered most. And in that quiet moment, with the twin moons casting light across the golden forests and crystal towers, Elias knew he had found his true place. He had saved a child, gained the trust of a queen, and become part of a world that valued courage, loyalty, and wisdom above all. Orvella was safe, its people stronger, and its future brighter, all because one human had chosen to act when it mattered most. And Elias, once a stranger in a foreign world, had become a legend in the truest sense, a hero defined not by battle, but by courage, care, and the unwavering dedication to protect and inspire.